I'm beginning by showing you this clip because many of you might not have been in the fine arts program at your high school or your middle school. Band is just one of many programs offered by Fine Arts. Today's subject is relevant to you guys because fine arts are being cut all across America and maybe in a school you went to. This is important to us because our future kids may not have fine arts programs at their school and they will not get the benefits given by them. Fine arts programs are beneficial to students in education in areas outside of education and need to stop being cut from the public school system. I researched both sides of this argument and I also have personal experience in the fine arts program. Today I'm going to talk about why they're being cut, give you a preview of my personal experience and what I learned, and I'll end with talking about why they should not be cut from schools. To begin, fine arts programs have been getting cut in public schools all across America for years now. The leading factor of this is due to budget cuts in the education system. How do schools not have enough money for fine arts programs, you ask? Author Talia Hawkins of the Washington Post talks about how arts programs are in the wake of a major funding crisis thanks to the state government and their struggle to balance budgets with the economic downturn. A Penn State weblogger, Lori Bettel, talks about how public schools never have enough money anyway, so she doesn't see the issue. Also, fine arts are being cut because they don't bring in enough money like other school activities like sports. To put it in perspective, think back to high school when you would go to a Friday night football game. You had to pay $5 to get in, but in comparison, a band concert was free. Another example is given by a teacher at Churchill High School in Oregon. He talks about how budget cuts have limited their number of art courses. Their art courses used to have different levels, and now thanks to budget cuts, they don't have any other courses left. Author Anne Brigman of EugeneWeekly.com says that some schools are even going as far as to charge their students if they want to take a fine arts class. Along with lack of funds is the lack of success. Some schools and students show more interest in their programs than others. For example, my high school had 5 choirs, 5 bands, an art program, and a theater program. In comparison, another school in our district had 1 band, 1 choir, and hardly a theater program at all. In an article concerning the lack of teachers in fine arts, authors Julian Guthrie and Jess Hamlin bluntly state that out of Cali's 300,000 fine arts teachers, only 2% teach fine arts. That's a rough 6,000 teachers out of the 300,000. This lack of teachers leads to the lack of success in programs. Finally, there's a lack of interest in the student body, which seems appropriate to cut the fine arts programs if no one's interested in it. While money and lack of success are sensible factors for cutting these programs, it may help to hear some personal experience and what I learned from it. All throughout middle school and high school, I was in band and choir. I started band in 6th grade because my mom forced me to do it. And I figured since I was going to be in the band, I might as well pick the cool instrument, so I picked percussion. I had to drag a suitcase to school every day with my drum and my bell kit in it, but I eventually learned to love it. As high school rolled around, I tried out for the drumline freshman year, I made it, and I continued to try out every year. Along with marching band, I was in the choir, which was one of the greatest experiences I've ever participated in. It even allowed me to travel across the world to Ireland. Enough about my experience, though, and on to what I learned. One of the main things I discovered in this program was that sometimes you have to rely on other people. For example, without other players or other singers, your whole group will fall apart. If one person messes up the marching set during halftime, everyone messes up. Learning this was helpful because sometimes we like to think we can accomplish everything on our own. But if you take a step back, you realize that sometimes you need other people to help you out and you can learn from them. Fine arts also worked on my focus and my dedication. During my halftime shows, if I messed up, everyone around me would mess up. Second, the minute I snapped out of focus, I was done for. I wouldn't remember my steps or my music, and that was awful. Before band, I didn't have as much dedication as I should have for certain things like schoolwork. However, with practices every day and early morning rehearsals, I realized that dedication was something that I needed. I learned to apply this focus and this drive to my schoolwork and my job. Finally, I learned to communicate with others. It may sound silly, but band and choir taught me to converse with different types of people. When I was in high school, I was the section leader of my drumline, which meant I had to teach drill, teach the music, be a leader, all while still being their friend. Band and choir broke me out of my shell, and I'm now comfortable talking to anyone. Now that you have an inside look on what my fine arts program meant to me and what I learned, I'm going to discuss why they need to stop being cut from the public school system. Fine arts, which can include band, choir, art, theater, and ceramics, are beneficial to students, and it's important that they stop being cut from the systems. Many may not realize it, but fine arts affect other areas outside of education, not just musical talent or artistic ability. Washington Post author Talia Hawkins says that there's supportive evidence that art education improves test scores. Hawkins mentions a study conducted by the College Board Association that says students who take 4 years of art or music classes score 91 points better on their SATs than students who only participated for a year. This study shows that arts education can influence areas such as math and reading. Outside of academic benefits, the fine arts program affects someone's character. An anonymous author of online weblog Daily Kos talks about how fine arts provide learning experience. He says much of fine arts education requires students to execute steps and convey ideas in 2, 3, or 4 dimensions. What he means is that students have to develop the ability to focus on several details at once. Utopia author Fran Smith talks about a 2004 report done by the RAND Corporation. This report argued that the pleasures and stimulations from art experience connect people more deeply to the world and with each other and allow them to converse in ways that they don't normally talk. Arts engagement students express themselves in means besides school and work. The final benefit is that fine arts help higher test scores, higher attendance and graduation rates, and lower disciplinary rates. The Missouri Alliance for Arts Education conducted a study in local Missouri schools. They examined the value of art classes in the system. To do this, they analyzed data from districts across Missouri. Their first finding was that art class participation was positively correlated with attendance rates. As you can see in this graph, the more art classes that they participated in, the higher their attendance rates were. Their next finding was that schools with lower disciplinary rates and infractions also had higher arts engagement. In this graph, you can see that 1.26 acts were given for every 100 students with low enrollment, and then only 0.69 infractions for every 100 students for high enrollment in the arts. Fine arts is essential to education and personal growth of students. They're being cut due to lack of funding and lack of success in schools. I also talked about my personal experience in band and what I learned from band and choir. Finally, I discuss why these programs need to remain in schools. They help educational and personal growth, and there's high correlation between arts engagement and test scores, attendance rates, and there's lower disciplinary rates. So as you can see, fine arts are beneficial to students inside and outside of the classroom and should stop being cut from the public school system. Just remember that kids all across the country live and learn through these fine arts programs, and it's important that they stay a part of the system so kids can get these benefits.